What is KU and should you be exclusive with them? I'm going to answer those questions along with discussing why I choose KU and the unsettling news about royalties for January that affect authors in the Amazon ecosystem. Hello, my wit fellows, Shannon here. I write under the pen name SC Huston, and I'm the author of 2 YA fantasy novels, Blood of the Lily and Soul of a Rose. Kindle Unlimited, KU, is an Amazon subscription program where customers can read as many ebooks as they like and keep them as long as they want for a monthly subscription fee. As an author, there are pros and cons for signing your book up for this subscription program. Last year, before my first book published, I had decided I would go wide with my books, and that just means you publish your books on multiple platforms. I had set up an account with Drafted Digital, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and with Amazon. But as I did more research, which included reading articles and watching a ton of YouTube videos by published authors, I wondered if I was making the right choice and if I shouldn't start in KU, as it's easier to start with just Amazon and then go wide later, versus the other way around where you have to make sure your book comes down off those other sites first before being exclusive with Amazon. The main thing you have to know as an author is that if you sign up with KU, your ebook is exclusive with Amazon for a 90-day period, meaning you can't have it published elsewhere, and you can be kicked off Amazon entirely if you break this agreement. You also get paid for each page read, which sounds great because if someone doesn't finish your book, you still get paid. But the price for each page read fluctuates with the market and how much Amazon is making. Last year, fourth quarter, Amazon surpassed $31 billion in revenue, its highest yet. But in January, they dropped how much authors are actually being paid for their KENP or Kindle pages read. In December, they paid $0.00475 per page. For January, authors made $0.00428 per page. It doesn't sound like much, but with authors who are making thousands of dollars from KU, this is a huge drop for them. So what are the benefits of exclusivity, and should you make the same decision I did? For my decision, I did a pros and cons list. Here's what I wrote up as a list of pros and cons with KU and going wide. First, I wrote up all my pros on one side of the paper, and then on the back side, I wrote up a list of my cons. And this was the list I used to try and figure out what did I want to do. As you can see, my list for pros for KU was much longer. First, there's the psychology of tags. I heard this from someone, but I don't remember who. But if you're in KU, you have that additional tag on your book page, which can grab a reader's attention more. If you're just starting out with self-publishing, as I was last year, there are so many things to learn. If you're exclusive with Amazon, then you only have one system to learn and you can become proficient quickly. You also only have one place to go to update your book and only one income report at the end of the year. Last, you don't have to juggle promotions with different sites. When it comes to your money and ranking, you don't have to spread your promotion money across the various platforms where your book is uploaded. All borrows also count toward your rank and not just sales. And you have access to Amazon's promotions like choosing 5 free days or doing a countdown deal. With that last point, when you choose one of their promotions, Amazon does their own advertising for your book by pushing it in front of their readers. Then there are some pros that have no research or objective qualifications, but are backed by established authors. These include the idea that borrowers are easier to snag than sales, which increase your sales rank as mentioned before. You can reach a large group of readers through KU, and you can have great exposure and discoverability as KU readers will take a chance on new authors. The last thing I considered as a new author is what KU readers like to read. While books in all genres can be found in KU, certain genres do better, like romance. I heard from other authors that KU was a great place for YA fantasy authors to find their initial audience. Okay, so what are the pros for going wide? Here's what I came up with. You're not tied to one platform, and so you don't have all your eggs in one basket if something was to happen to Amazon. By being on multiple platforms, you qualify for hitting bestseller lists, as most of these require you being wide. The same can be said of being approved for a BookBub deal. Getting approved for this type of promotion is the holy grail, but they prefer their authors to be wide. Last, there are a subset of readers who either don't have access to Amazon or they simply will not use it. That first point about having all your eggs in one basket is important, but since I pay for my own ISBNs, if something happens to Amazon, my books won't disappear and I can just pivot and upload to other sites. Next, although I have faith in my stories, I don't believe they have the level or power that they need to qualify for bestsellers lists. I believe I can get there with a bit more practice, but not at this point, so I wasn't worried about trying to get on those lists. Last, although some cannot or will not use Amazon, from many authors' reports, anywhere from 50 to 70% of their income comes from Amazon. I would have been missing out on some of these sales, so I had to weigh that against the pros of being in KU. Now for the cons. Remember that if you're in KU, you get paid for each page read. If you have a short book, you're not making much money. My first book, Blood of the Lily, is short out of 176 pages. I make 75 cents from someone reading the full book in KU, whereas I make $2.74 if someone buys the ebook at full price. So there's one drawback, at least for my first book. Amazon is also not a dominant bookseller in international markets, so I can't reach the whole world. I also cannot or will not likely ever get a BookBub deal. KU readers are a different subset of readers, so that if I ever go wide, they will not likely follow me to buy my books, and I'll lose that core audience. Last, there's an idea, although it's not fully supported by all authors, that to do well in KU, you must have rapid release, meaning that you have to release multiple books in a short amount of time. If you go wide with your books, there are a few cons too. One, if you want to reduce the price of your books or do any changes, you have multiple platforms you have to update, and Amazon doesn't always play nice and match that new price, especially if you're making your book perma-free. It can also potentially take longer to build an audience. Last, with Amazon, you're mostly dealing with the algorithm for your book's visibility, but with some platforms, you need a representative who can help your book get that needed visibility, and you may not always have a rep. From my pros and cons list, I had decided to go with KU as a brand new author with no audience, who was learning everything about self-publishing in a short amount of time. I do plan to go wide later as my backlist expands, but for now, KU is where I'm staying, even with the price drop for the KENP. Making this decision is a very personal one. Just because I decided to go with KU, it might not be the best decision for you, so weigh your own set of pros and cons. If you do decide to go wide, I highly recommend M.K. Williams' book, Going Wide, Self-Publishing Your Books Outside the Amazon Ecosystem. The book is about increasing your reach as an author and maps out a way to go wide and be successful. I plan on following this book when I move wide later in my author career, which, by the way, even though I don't publish my books on other platforms, I still have an author presence on sites like BookBub and Goodreads, and have built audiences outside of Amazon. If you're wondering how to build your audience even before you have a published book and avoid some of the mistakes I made, I recommend checking out my video here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and happy writing.